So let's go on to the next topic, Johnny, and just finish this off, because this is what really irritates me. As, by the way, guys, continue to send me your stories of hardship during COVID. I am working on them. I'm reading through some of them, and it's really hard to really see how so many people have the same very similar stories, right? You're talking about losing your job, and then not having your job. You had your money saved for school or for something else, and then you lose that, and then now you have to move it back in with somebody else, and then you don't know what's going to happen. You don't have a home anymore, or you've been trying to get work for 8 months. You can't find work. I mean, it's the same story over and over again from people living all over this country, and yet we have the Congress, the Senate and the House insulting people with this pennies, with these scraps, with this trash of a stimulus that they're trying to give you. In 9 months, we've had a $1,200 check. Many people said they didn't ever get that. They specifically mention it. And now they're fighting for $600 stimulus checks. Yay. The evictions are looming right now. Like I said, December 31st, and you have to pay back what was it, 20% at least, and then eventually you have to pay it all back. It depends on the state you're in. In California, it's like that. And so Biden, of course, he's been picking, like I said, all these Republicans and all these people coming in, and the people that are already in Congress are already a bunch of, like, I swear, psychopaths, right? And Congress is set to close this coronavirus deal, right? And it includes these stimulus checks, but they don't tell you that the stimulus checks are garbage. So here it is. Senate and House leaders are on the cusp. They're on the cusp of coronavirus relief deal that will include direct $600 to $700 direct stimulus payments and $300 per week supplemental unemployment assistance, according to sources with the talk. So from what I read, they're going to extend, I think, for 13 more weeks unemployment. They're going to put in the $300 and give you a $600 stimulus. It's a $900 billion package, which, by the way, Nancy Pelosi accepted from, I think it was $1 trillion before. And this is a result of months of stop and start negotiations. Blah, blah, blah. Bipartisan group of senators and House members unveiled their own $908 billion package. And this will not include $160 billion in new state and local aid or liability protection for businesses and other organizations. Two of the most contentious issues of the talk. The new round of stimulus checks cost approximately the same as the $160 billion in state and local aid that negotiators have set aside in hopes of reaching a deal by this week's end. Senator and House leaders want to attach a new coronavirus relief package to a $1.4 trillion omnibus spending package that needs to pass by December 18th to keep the government founded. Yep, 2 days. The emerging deal is based largely on a revised $748 billion relief bill that the bipartisan group of Senate and House moderates unveiled Monday, which left aside local funding and the liability protections provisions. Senator Republicans, John Thune, a member of the Senate Finance Committee, told reporters the stimulus checks will be $600 to $700 per individual. That's half of the $1,200. And the senator said there could be language in the deal aimed at addressing concerns that people who receive both enhanced unemployment benefits and stimulus checks would be getting a double benefit. A double benefit. Tax experts said that it would be difficult for the IRS to administer provision that prevents unemployment recipients from getting direct payments. So they're so fucking worried that you might get a living wage, right? Because as I said before, the $600 that it was last time on top of the whatever you got was a living wage. That's literally a living wage. Some people who made more money than that were screwed because they have more expenses, because they make more money. So they have more expenses and they got screwed because of that. Yet these people are worried about the couple people that might make $100 or $200 more. Yes, this is on the Republicans too. Obviously, this is how they think. That's what I have an issue with too. But let's not pretend Nancy Pelosi didn't see that and was like, oh, let me fight for the little guy. Let's not pretend Chuck Schumer okay, or Adam Schiff, or any of these people have ever fucking given a damn about people. Once they're in there, they got it. They got their money, their cushion jobs. They're fine. They have health care. They're fine. They're still working. In fact, they get paid to not work. They want to go home now for Christmas. They want to go home without doing anything. They don't know when this will be released, too. This is ludicrous. Oh, they might get double dipping. Are you fucking kidding me? This is like Americans should be right now in the streets already. They should have done this. We should have done this a long time ago. And I don't understand. How do you think that $1,800 in a year is enough for people who haven't had money, who have been making $200, if that, every week for most of the time, right? Except that short time they got the $600. And how that's barely, even with the $600, that's barely making like a $15 an hour wage. What makes you think that that's enough for people? What makes you, they don't care. That's the point, that they don't give a shit about you. So why are we trying to reform this party? I always go back to that, right? Because my thing with the whole Jimmy thing and my was, why are we voting for Pelosi? Why should they even vote for her in the first place? Why should we even care about what the Democrats do? We need to start freaking striking. We need to start doing those things, those full-on direct actions, right? Because it's like, these people aren't going to do anything. They're going to vote for Pelosi. They're going to maintain the status quo. They're telling you right now that $600 is enough for you. And it's not. And Sanders and Hawkeye, right? Now, Hawkeye is a Republican, and Bernie Sanders is an independent, technically. And they were opposing. They said that they wanted to push the $1,200, and they have been pushing for that. And Bernie did this interview in the Situation Room, and he said that COVID relief bill is being negotiated in Congress is much too low. And he said the price tag for, this is what they said, the price tag for a stimulus deal could be close to $900 billion. And that's exactly what we just said. It's 908. It should be at least double that, is what Sanders says. So let's hear a little bit of what he says, because even though he is pushing for $1,200, he's actually willing to accept the $600.
Right now, we're keeping a very close eye up on Capitol Hill, where lawmakers say they are making progress, and a new economic stimulus package is expected to include a new round of direct payments to individuals, something that our next guest has been pushing for very, very strongly. Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont is joining us from Capitol Hill. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. And I know this is an issue that is close to your heart. You've been critical of the current coronavirus relief proposals, saying they simply don't go far enough to do what is really needed. But from your perspective, on the latest information you're getting, what's missing?
Well, number one, the entire bill at $900 billion is much too low. It should be at least double that. So what's in this current bill is good, but it's not enough. Now, what I recognized a couple of weeks ago, that there were no direct payments going out to people in this country, many of whom are in desperate economic shape. As you well know, Wolf, we got a record-breaking level of hunger in America, higher than it's been for a very, very long time. You got millions of people who are facing eviction. They can't afford to pay their rent. They're going deeper into debt. And we're looking at people in the midst of the worst pandemic in 100 years who can't afford to go to the doctor because they don't have enough money. So what I have fought for, along with a Republican senator, Senator Hawley of Missouri, is to make sure there are direct payments similar to what we did in the CARES Act in March. And that would be $1,200 for every working class person in America, people under $75,000, a couple under $150,000, and $500 for each of their children. So a family of four would get $3,400, which is not insignificant in this moment when so many people are hurting.
But just to be precise, that yet hasn't been accepted, what you want, right?
That is right. Where we're at right now, as I understand it, is we're between $600 and $700 for adults and $600 for children. So we are making progress, but I want us to go even further, because I think when you ask people out on the street, what is the most important thing the government can do in this terrible, terrible moment, they will say, give us some help. We need some help right now to pay the bills. And that's what we're trying to do.
Researchers have found, Senator, that since June, it's hard to believe this is happening in our country, some 7.8 million Americans have fallen into poverty. Now, these are people who had jobs, were making a living, they were paying the rent, buying food, doing what they needed to do, but now they are in poverty right now. And it's hard to believe this is going on. And what's so frustrating to me and so many others, why is it taking so long to help these millions of Americans?
Well, I don't want to become overly political here, but it is clear to me that we have a Republican majority here in the Senate who has refused to entertain and still refuses to entertain the kind of funding that is needed to provide nutrition, to help people who are being evicted, to make sure that people in this crisis, can you believe it, in the midst of this terrible pandemic, everyone's afraid of getting the virus, and you got 90 million people who are unable to go to the doctor when they get sick. So many of us had fought for adequate funding, and we've met very stiff resistance from Mitch McConnell and the Republican leadership. But what we got now is not enough, but it is something. And I'm just simply happy to say that as we enter the holiday season, when so many people are worried about how they're going to pay their bills, whether they're going to get evicted, whether they're going to feed their kids, at least, among other things, there'll be $600 per adult and $600 per child as well. That's a start. I want to do better.
Okay. So as you can see, even though Bernie is the only one, along with the Republican, right, which I think it's a good idea to fight, as long as it's for the people, right? Because sometimes when bipartisan is laid out, it's like not for us. It's for like corporations, right? As long as it's a bipartisan thing for people, that's a good effort, Bernie, but it's a little late. I mean, what is taking so long? I mean, what's going on here that we can't push for something? Why aren't we organizing some sort of occupation, some sort of strike, some sort of whatever? Why aren't we talking to small business owners who are losing everything they have, every single dream that they've ever had because of stupid shutdowns? And yeah, like, well, I got COVID, but I don't think you can shut down like that, especially when the spread isn't coming from restaurants. It's coming from people going to each other's houses. Like that is ludicrous. And what's happening in Los Angeles, everything is screwed. All these small businesses are screwed because people like Gavin Newsom are ineffective, like dumb governors. They're hypocrites. He goes out and eats. He goes to the gym. They get to do all these things that they tell you that you can't do. Yeah, these people aren't allowed to work. Well, at the same time, they're not given any sort of stimulus more than the $1,200. $1,200 doesn't cover your fucking rent in LA. Find me an apartment that's $1,200 in LA, and I will be extremely surprised. A one bedroom. Not a little studio with no kitchen. Find me a one bedroom apartment that has that. Like that $600 covered. $600 doesn't cover anybody's rent. And Bernie Sanders is telling you, oh, this is just the Republicans. The Republicans, and it's like, it's not just the Republicans, Bernie, it's the Democrats. It's Nancy Pelosi, it's Chuck Schumer, it's Adam Schiff. Nancy Pelosi rejected a bigger stimulus because she didn't want Trump to take the win. That's why she did that. She didn't want him to. She's like, no, I'm going to wait it off because she knew that Biden would be selected. Right? And so she's like, I'm going to wait it off. I'm going to hold off on this. And now she accepts a stimulus that's half of it. And like, where do you get this idea that it's just Republicans? Why are you spewing the same neoliberal CIA talking points that the establishment is doing? And then on top of that, he says he's willing to accept the $600. This is our most progressive senator. Literally, he is. I mean, he is. As much as angry as I am at him, he is the most progressive senator. That America, this is where you're at. The one person, along with a Republican counterpart, are the only two people fighting for a bigger stimulus. Everybody else is fine with $600. Are you fine with $600? Are you ready to actually do something about it. Like it's come to that point, you guys. We don't have power in the electorate. You see what happens when you try to do something in the electorate. They talk you down. They say you don't know what you're talking about. You don't understand politics. You don't understand how this works. Committees and subcommittees and legislation. Who gives a shit about all that? Nobody cares. When you have mouths to feed, when you have children, you're not going to tell me that even a $3,400, even a $1,200 stimulus isn't enough. We should have gotten UBIs direct payments every single month for the duration of the primary. It's not crazy. It's not crazy. Now, do I trust the government to give you money in a capitalist system like this, the UBI? No, not necessarily. I think people should have social safety nets to go along with it. However, during the pandemic, your country is supposed to protect you from it. If they're going to shut your businesses down, if you're going to close the economy, you can't leave people hanging with no other reason. A lot of people who are in the service industry have to work because they make their money. And the thing about the service industry is you make your money right away. You make cash every day. And that's how people live their life. And when you don't have that, you don't know what to do. And your rent and all of this, and it's like they don't understand, like, oh, it's fine, I'll accept it, it's better than nothing. No, because what happens is when you accept scraps, you end up thinking that you don't deserve any better. So what we should be doing right now is having people shut down the economy, having truck drivers, grocery store workers, all these people that are completely unemployed by the service industry, every small business owner that's lost their business, while these corporate giants are going to be fine because they got all their money funneled. They got all the PPP. They were the first ones to get it. Gavin Newsom's friends were the first ones to get it. And all these people are going to be fine. That's just putting all of the economy into these big corporations, Amazon. All these people, they're getting richer and richer and richer. And the middle class is all but disappearing. The working class is literally unhoused, most of them. There are people who work full time and literally don't have a roof over their head. Something's got to give. I don't care what ideology you are. You can tell that there's obviously something wrong in this system that is not working when you have so many people that are unhoused even before the pandemic hit. Right? Even before the pandemic, this happened. So when I hear the most progressive senator saying, you know what, at least it's $600, I'm sorry, that's not good enough. A lot of people want to praise that. Maybe people say I'm being harsh, but try to put yourself in the shoes of somebody that is going to get a $600 stimulus check by February that's already been evicted. $600, what's that going to do for them? It's going to do something. But it's scraps. You deserve more. We should be fighting for more. Why is it that we have been told that we shouldn't get that? And on top of that, of course, the icing on the cake, the last stab in the back is that we don't have health care in the middle of a pandemic. And if you get sick, you don't want to take that ambulance. And if you start feeling something, you don't want to go to the hospital because you don't want to have a $10,000 bill for the emergency room. And you might die because you'd rather not do that. And you would die alone because, yeah. So, guys, like this is bad. I don't think people understand, which is why I'm doing the project I'm doing, the status that we're in, the gravity of what's coming, because it is coming. And they voted for the CARES Act, which was the largest transfer of wealth. And they're going to vote for this again. They're all going to succumb to it. They're all going to give in to Republicans. Why don't they do like the Tea Party did? Why don't they do like the Whigs did? Why don't we do that? Hold these people. They removed Boehner. They made him cry, and they took him and they got him out of DC because they stood their ground. Why are they able to stand their ground and literally get what they want? But the Democratic Party and the progressive wing isn't able to do that. They even chastise you. They say, "Why you don't know what you're talking about? We have to wait for the right time and the right tactic. It's not an okay strategy." Why does Nancy Pelosi get protected by the people that are supposed to oppose her? Like, this doesn't make any sense. These people are not here for you. You need to stop relying on them. We need to rely on direct actions. That is, frankly, the only thing that we have in power. That's what it's going to take right now. And if we don't do it this time, we're not going to do it because it's a pandemic. If a pandemic and loss of everything doesn't make you go and do something, then I don't know what will. This is the time to do that, to put these politicians' asses on fire, to go to their houses like people are going to Garcetti's house, to literally shut down the economy and say, understand, when I talk about shut down the economy, it's not just a commie thing. It's not a socialist thing. It is a workers thing. They depend on you to get the economy functioning. They take you for granted, but they depend on you. What would happen if farmers decided to stop working? What would happen if grocery store clerks and associates decided to stop working? What would happen if teachers decided to go on strike at the same time? Nurses. What would happen if nurses decided to say, you know what, we're not even being given the real PPE. We're not giving protections. They're overworked and underpaid. EMTs, all these people, the delivery workers. Oh, we're being exposed to COVID. They don't care about us. They're paying us. They're not really paying us enough to do this job, and yet we have to expose ourselves. What would happen if all these people, these services, just said, you know what, we're not going to participate in this economy until you give us these 10 things that we want? It's been done before, time and time again. That is what moved change, not AOC pushing papers, but that. And that's what they're afraid of. That's why they don't like Jimmy's idea, because that is the beginning of that. Because that is saying, oh, we're gonna put you on display. That is holding somebody's feet to the fire. But these people don't want feet held to the fire. They just want a little bit of criticism here and there, and they're fine, because you know what? Their lives are still fine. They still have jobs. They're okay. It's only rhetoric. And if you don't walk the walk, and if you're just going to talk the talk, yes, we're going to call you out because people are desperate and people need some sort of action from these people. No more words, no more platitudes, no more hot takes on Twitter. Oh, this is so great. Ilhan Omar says, oh, we need $1,200 stimulus check. But what are you doing to fucking get it? You're not out there. Yeah, you're not out there pushing for it. What are you doing? I want to see it. People need to see it. People need to see you work hard. You are a representative. You're a public servant. The public needs to know what you're doing, if you're doing, and how hard you're gonna fight. And if you're not opposing the person denying you that, then you're not really doing it. And Pelosi is that person. Pelosi's got to go. Schumer's got to go. No hesitations, ands, ifs, or buts, period.